Friends, if you're interested in watching the highly anticipated 2025 movie Sinners in full HD, here's what you need to do. First, give this video a like. If you're visiting our channel for the first time, subscribe to it. Today's video is about the movie Sinners. We'll provide information on how and where you can watch the movie officially. In addition to that, we'll delve into the pre-production, post-production, budget, box office collection, and filming aspects of the movie. We'll also give a detailed review of the movie, explaining its story in detail. We'll discuss the cast and their performances, as well as the music and technical departments. This video promises to be very interesting and entertaining, so make sure to watch it all the way through. If you haven't liked it yet, give it a like now and subscribe to our channel. Let's start the video. Sinners is a 2025 American film produced, written, and directed by Ryan Coogler. Set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta, the movie stars Michael B. Jordan in dual roles as criminal twin brothers who return to their hometown to start anew. However, they're confronted by a supernatural evil. The film also features Hailee Steinfeld, Miles Caton, Jack Unel, WMI Mozak, Jamie Lawson, Omar Miller, and Delroy Lindo. Coogler began developing the film through his production company, Proximity Media, by January 2024 when Jordan was cast. After a bidding war, Warner Brothers Pictures acquired distribution rights the following month, and additional roles were cast in April. Principal photography commenced in April and concluded in July 2024. Longtime collaborator Louis Garanson composed the film score and served as an executive producer. Sinners premiered on April 3, 2025, at AMC Lincoln Square in New York City, and was released theatrically in the United States on April 18, 2025, by Warner Brothers Pictures. The film received critical acclaim and grossed $364 million worldwide, solidifying its position as the 9th highest-grossing film of 2025. The film's plot unfolds in 1932, following the return of identical twins and World War I veterans, Stack and his brother, to Clarksdale, Mississippi. After years of working for the Chicago outfit, they return with a plan to start a juke joint for the local black community. Using money stolen from gangsters, they purchase a sawmill from the racist landowner Hogwood. Their cousin Sammy, an aspiring guitarist, joins them despite his pastor, Father Jadodia's warnings that blues music is supernatural. Stack encounters his white ex-girlfriend, Mary, who resents him for abandoning her out of protection. To bolster their business, the twins recruit pianist Delta Slim as a performer, local Chinese shopkeeper couple Grace, and Ba Chow as suppliers. They also hire field worker Cornbread as a bouncer and Smoke's arranged wife, Annie. As the cook, Annie believes her hoodoo practices kept the twins safe, while Smoke doubts them for not preventing their infant daughter's death. Meanwhile, Irish immigrant vampire Remick shelters from Choctaw vampire hunters with a married Klansman couple whom he turns into vampires. On the joint's opening night, Sammy, Delta Slim, and Pearl, a singer with whom Sammy becomes enamored, perform on stage. Sammy's music is transcendent, unknowingly summoning spirits of both past and future to join the crowd. However, the performance also attracts Remick and his vampire thralls, who offer money and music in exchange for entry. Smoke suspiciously refuses. The twins realize that their patron's reliance on company script makes it impossible for the joint to be profitable. Reasoning with Stack that the outside income is necessary, Mary meets Remick outside where she is turned. Returning inside, she seduces and fatally bites Stack. Sammy and Smoke discover them. Smoke shoots Mary, but she is unaffected and escapes. Outside, Remick turns Cornbread. Smoke closes the joint early. As the patrons and Bo leave, the vampires turn them. Stack revives as a vampire but flees after Annie repels him with pickled garlic juice. Annie realizes their assailants are vampires and tells the survivors how to deter and defeat them. She also informs them that killing Remick will not revert his THRs back to humans. Although Remick shares their THR's memories, their personalities remain intact. Still unable to enter the joint, Remick promises to leave in exchange for Sammy, whose musical skills he wants to use to summon the spirits of his lost community. He reveals that Hogwood heads the local clan and plans to attack the joint at dawn. He then invites the survivors to join him as his THRS, claiming that vampirism offers immortality and freedom from persecution. They refuse, and Remick threatens to attack Chow's daughter, Lisa, at their home. Enraged by the threat, Grace invites the vampires into the joint, and a fight ensues. Grace, B, Annie and Delta Slim are killed, while Mary escapes and Remick turns to ashes. Smoke fights and defeats Stack, then assists Sammy in defeating Remick and his 3 henchmen, who are all incinerated by the light of the sunrise. Smoke sends Sammy home before he kills Hogwart and his men, but is fatally shot. As he dies, he sees the spirits of Annie and their daughter. Meanwhile, despite his father's pleas to seek salvation, Sammy travels to Chicago and becomes a successful blues musician. 60 years later, an elderly Sammy is visited by an ageless Stack and Mary after performing at his blues club. Stack reveals that Smoke spared him at the joint on the condition that Sammy would live in peace. After declining the couple's offer of immortality, Sammy performs for them. As they leave, Sammy admits that despite being haunted by that fateful night until the violence, it was the greatest day of his life. Stack agrees since it was the last time he saw Smoke or the sun, and the only time they were all truly free. Michael B. Jordan portrays the Smokestack twins. Hailee Steinfeld plays Mary Stack's ex-girlfriend. Miles Caton portrays Samuel Sammy Moore, Smoke and Stack's cousin and a sharecropper who aspires to become a blues musician. Buddy Guy portrays the elderly Sammy. Jack Ocano portrays Remick, an Irish vampire. One Maimasaku portrays Annie, Smoke's arranged wife and a hoodoo practitioner. Jamie Lawson portrays Perline, a married singer with whom Sammy becomes smitten. Omar Miller portrays Cornbread, a sharecropper and bouncer, and Delroy Lindo portrays Remick. As Delta Slim, an esteemed Old Town piano player and musical legend, Peter Dmanis portrays Bert, a local KKK member and Joan's husband. Lola Kirk embodies Joan, a KKK member and Bert's wife. Lee Jun Lee portrays Grace Chow, Boza's wife and a shopkeeper. Saul Williams portrays Jedediah Moore, a pastor and Sam's father. Yao portrays Bo Chow, Grace's husband and a shopkeeper. David Maldonado portrays Hogwood, the local KKK leader and Bert's uncle. Helena, who plays Lisa Chow, Bo and Grace's daughter, and Renee Ward Hammond portray Ruthie, Sammy's mother. Nathaniel Arand portrays Caton, a Choctaw vampire hunter. Emini Ellison portrays the Rise, Cornbread's pregnant wife. Production. In January 2024, an untitled period film, rumored to be set in the Jim Crow South and involving the undead, was reported to be in development through writer, director, and producer Ryan Coogler's production company, Proximity Media. Longtime collaborator Michael B. Jordan was cast in the lead role. Sony Pictures, Warner Brothers Pictures, and Universal Pictures engaged in a bidding war to acquire the distribution rights to the film, which had an estimated budget of around $90 million. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers greenlit the film with a production budget of $80 million, but the final budget increased to $100 million. In exchange for the distribution rights, Coogler requested first dollar gross, final cut privilege, and ownership of the film 25 years after its release. The film's release was delayed. The following month, Warner Brothers secured the distribution rights to the film by surpassing Coogler's terms. Coogler cited the films of Quentin Tarantino, Jordan Peele, and Christopher Nolan as sources of inspiration, and Christopher Nolan was given an on-screen special thanks credit. Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, and Spike Lee were also mentioned as influences. In April 2024, Jack O'Connell was cast as the film's villain. Delroy Lindo, Jamie Lawson, Omar Benson Miller, Hailee Steinfeld, Lee Jun Lee, and Lola Kirk were cast in undisclosed roles. One Mayosaka was cast as Smoke's love interest. The following month, Miles Caton, Peter Dmanis, and Christian Robinson joined the cast. Holly completed a script read for the role that ultimately went to Steinfeld. Principal photography commenced in New Orleans on April 14, 2024, under the working title Grilled Cheese and concluded on July 17. Cinematographer Autumn Durald Arkipa captured the film on 65mm film using a combination of IMAX 15PF and Ultra Panavision 70 cameras, resulting in scenes that alternate between the 1.43:1 and 2.76:1 aspect ratios. Kodak developed an IMAX version of their Ektachrome 100D5 294 film stock specifically for the production, which was utilized for a flashback sequence. The production incurred a significant expense of $67.6 million on location in Louisiana. The film's allocated budget eventually rose to approximately $100 million. The film's production designer, Hannah Beachler, has acknowledged that the design of the church in the film included crossed beams, which contributed to the Wakanda Forever theme. The film's visual effects music was provided by a team of VFX studios, including Industrial Light and Magic, Storm Studios, Rising Sun Pictures, Base FX, Barabum Studios, Light VFX, and Outpost. Coogler's frequent collaborator Ludwig Göransson worked on the soundtrack of Sinners. Göransson described Sinners as a personal and ambitious score that reflected his own musical journey. He drew inspiration from blues music and performed the score on a 1932 Dabro Cyclops resonator guitar, the same one Sammy carries throughout the film. During pre-production, Coogler sent Göransson several recordings from the 1930s and 1940s, particularly those of Robert Johnson and Tommy Johnson. Göransson and Coogler insisted that Ludwig's wife, Serena, produce the songs. Serena Göransson, a classically trained violinist, emphasized the importance of handling Southern black music with care and expert consultation. She felt like a steward of this project, especially with the music, as it had a life of its own. The couple worked with Lawrence Bew Mitchell, a blues producer who owns Royal Studios. Mitchell visited the B.B. King Museum and local juke joints in Clarksdale and Indianola with them for inspiration. The Gansons and Mitchell recorded the songs at Royal Studios over 5 days, collaborating with musicians such as Alvin Youngblood Hart, Cedric Burnside, Brittany Howard, Raphael Suddy, Bobby Rush, and Christ One. Kingfish, Ingram, and Buddy Guy, who also appears in the film, were among the talented musicians who contributed to the movie. Göransson rented a studio converted from a church in New Orleans and collaborated with the supporting cast, including Jack Unnell, Lola Kirk, Peter Germanis, and Jamie Lawson. They rehearsed their songs multiple times to ensure a seamless performance. A significant portion of the film was recorded live on set, with the cast members performing alongside other blues musicians. Hailee Steinfeld wrote and recorded the original song, Dangerous, for the film. Unlike most Warner Brothers films that have soundtracks released through their in-house label, Water Tower Music, or record labels owned by Warner Music Group, the soundtrack and score to Sinners were released through Sony music labels. The soundtrack was released on Sony Masterworks on April 18, 2025, the same day as the film, featuring a diverse array of blues musicians. Alongside the cast members, the lead single, Sinners, performed by Rod Wave, was released 2 weeks earlier. Sinners was released in the United States and Canada on April 18, 2025. It was previously scheduled for release on March 7, 2025, but was delayed to April to accommodate the additional time required in post-production due to the scarcity of film stock labs for the project, which heavily utilized film cameras in addition to a standard digital release. The film also received 10 IMAX 70mm prints and 5 standard 70mm prints. In late May, the film was screened in Clarksdale, Mississippi, the setting of the movie. Despite lacking a functioning movie theater, the Civic Auditorium hosted 6 showings, introduced by Coogler Gansson and other filmmakers. Over the 3-day weekend festival, the town also hosted panels and Q&A sessions related to the film. Home Media Sinners was released on digital streaming on June 3, 2025, and will be released on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD on July 8, 2025. It will also begin streaming on HBO Max on July 4, 2025. Ryan Coogler, the filmmaker and hitmaker, is known for his work in social realism. His debut film, Fruitvale Station, was a social realism film. However, he gained international recognition with his superhero film, Black Panther, and revitalized the Rocky franchise with Creed. In this gonzo horror thriller mashup, Coogler delves into machismo and craziness. The movie, appropriately titled Sinners, is a spectacular, albeit somewhat hubristic, film. However, there are a few saints scattered throughout the pre-war Deep South. The film tells a freaky tale of supernatural evil and the blues, which indirectly draws inspiration from the legend of Mississippi bluesman Robert Johnson, selling his soul to the devil at a remote crossroads in exchange for fame and fortune. Sinners also playfully riffs on the idea that blues, a music that is avidly consumed by its producer's enemies, is a kind of music that is consumed by its producer's enemies. As Delroy Lindo's character states, white folks like the blues just fine, just not the people who make it. Songwriter Miles Caton makes his acting debut as Sammy, a precocious teen blues guitarist and singer who is also the son of a preacher man, as immortalized in the words of Dusty Springfield. Sammy is the cousin of two twin scoundrels and shark-dressing dandies, Elijah and Elias. Michael B. Jordan portrays these two with some presence. Elijah and Elias smoke, and they have been involved in gang warfare in Chicago, where they were allegedly working for Al Capone. Now, they are returned to their home turf with a substantial amount of money, which they intend to invest in their own juke joint. Young Sammy will bring in the crowds with his incredible music. However, their plans are disrupted when one of the twins' ex-lovers, played by Hailee Steinfeld, shows up. Mary is admitted to the joint along with a sinister country singer named Remick Gurningly, played by Jack O'Connell, who has a fondness for Irish tunes. As night falls, the forces of darkness and the undead close in, and the juke joint finds itself under siege until the sun rises again. In some ways, this film can be seen as a black version of Robert Rodriguez's 90s film, Head Trip from Dusk Till Dawn, scripted by Quentin Tarantino. In this film, George Clooney and Tarantino portray two brothers holed up in a grisly saloon in Mexico, under threat from satanic bandits. Tarantino and Rodriguez responded to the premise with irony and anarchy, but this is not exactly how Coogler portrays this film tonally. For the first half of the film, it is essentially a realistic period adventure in which the twins' anti-heroic functions are believable within a world. They are the bad guys, but we can't help but notice the good in them, or at least the understandable survival instinct. However, the introduction of the real demons makes these real-world issues irrelevant. For many, the movie could have done without the supernatural element. I admit I'm one of them. I would prefer to see a real story where the jeopardy work itself out, but there is energy, comic book brashness, and a notable performance by the cast. In the post-production of the movie Stung, there's a real-world cameo. Vampire movies often struggle to be innovative. The formulas and mythologies of the subgenre are tried and tested, repeated and rewarded. Stinging holy water, foul garlic, burning sunrises, and firm wooden stakes through the heart are the primary tools wielded against the undead. Often, the biggest change from story to story is merely the setting, a far-flung Eastern European country, an American urban locale, or a stifling desert. Knowing these limitations, I have to give Sinners, a sweaty, gory Southern Gothic horror musical, some credit. It's a messy picture that throws the kitchen sink at the genre and yet somehow often misses the mark. In Ryan Coogler's Sinners, Michael B. Jordan plays Smoke and Stack, bootlegging brothers and former soldiers who left home long ago to fight in World War I before settling in Chicago to work for Capone's outfit. They're returning to the Mississippi Delta with rolls of cash and cases of Irish beer to open a juke joint in a disused sawmill bought off a racist white man. They hope their little cousin Sammy Miles Caton, a former backup singer for her who mostly holds his own, will help them out. Despite their best plans, however, they're unable to create a safe space that will protect attendees from the Jim Crow racism present in 1932. A bloodthirsty company will visit them before their lone day of business is out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Sinners is a Coogler movie through and through, attempting much of what the writer-director tried to accomplish with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. The director reaches for epic scope when intimacy would do just fine. He mourns broken black lineages and bears the stains of American racism. It also returns Jordan to the fold in a dual performance that attempts to be smoldering and desirable, imposing and heroic. It's a shame to see Coogler's ambitious designs ultimately conform to genre conventions, causing the intended impact to be diminished. Awe-inspiring moments are fleeting, but the film's diverse cast of major talents, assembled over time, showcases its broad scope. The film begins with a scarred and disheveled Sammy, brandishing the severed neck of his guitar, returning to his father's white church, desperately seeking salvation. The film then flashes back a day, introducing Smoke and Stax arriving in town. They hire local talent, including the alcoholic bluesman Delta Slim, played wonderfully by Delroy Lindo, the hoodoo conjurer Annie, and cornbread Omar Benson Miller to guard the door. Grace Lai Jun Lee and Bo Chao Yao are hired to mind the bar, and former flames like Stax's past lover Mary Hailee Steinfeld, often mistaken for white, also arrive. Pearl Jamie Lawson, a local girl with whom Sammy is smitten, joins the group. The accumulation of characters and their backstories takes time, delaying the arrival at the juke joint until about an hour into the film. Coogler deliberately takes his time to immerse the audience in the world. He uses elaborate wares extended by whip pans to transport viewers. For example, from Ba Chow's shop on one side of the main street to Grace Chow's on the other. He holds shots that allow viewers to travel across Smoke and Stax, resplendent suits, or catch the sweat that rolls under the southern sun. Coogler proudly shot the film on 65mm with IMAX cameras, hoping to capture the large-scale and aesthetic information the format offers. While this choice provides moments of unwavering textured beauty, it also tends to create a shallow focus, blurring the background and making the characters appear separate from the held at a visual distance. The same can be said for the high contrast and deep shadows in Coogler's compositions, which fit the film's horror tone but shroud Jordan's face, often in his most emotionally charged scenes. Even some of the cuts appear slightly off schedule, as if Coogler is frantically trying to spool the film before it jumbles in front of him. The film's topics, equally disordered, are varied and inseparable from Coogler's career. African folklore, America's racial history, decimated black families, black freedom, black-owned properties, the importance of ancestors and kin, and the binding power of music. Sammy serves as the nexus for many of these themes. A preacher's son and talented blues guitarist, he possesses the uncommon artistic strength to bridge eras and segments of the diaspora just by strumming his guitar. In one of the film's most electrifying scenes, Sammy passionately sings to the jukebox, joining parishioners of sharecroppers. His music transforms into a fantastical blend of African drummers, an Afrofuturist electric guitarist, and even Chinese dancers. Coogler's camera spins and twirls through this kaleidoscope of colors and sounds, creating a vibrant cacophony that hints at the boundless possibilities he could explore if he didn't have to abruptly shift gears and address the vampire element of his movie. The film's final, gory climax is a delightful display of violence, ignited by Sammy's otherworldly music. Drawn by Sammy's extraordinary abilities, three white vampires, singing Irish folk songs, saunter up to the juke joint, requesting entry. Initially rebuffed by Smoke and Stax, their eventual way in feels like a warning from Coogler against the dangers of whiteness in spaces built for people of color. The consequences of crossing such color lines result in a gruesome tableau, where composer Ludwig Göransson's haunting score transitions into growling metal, and the aspect ratio expands to accommodate every drop of blood. This collision of Queen of the Damned and From Dusk Till Dawn offers a captivating blend of horror and musical brilliance. Spectacle, even if it offers few new twists to the vampire mythology, particularly in the context of the film's southern setting. While Coogler may struggle to find a satisfying conclusion, it's tempting to be captivated by his expansive vision, driven by his unwavering intent. However, I often found myself questioning the film's central focus. Is it a mere smoke and mirrors story, or is it truly about Sam? The final three scenes, including a mid- and post-credits scene, feel like mere checklists. Jordan is the star, so we need a grand finale where he embodies his inner Rambo. We need to know what happens to Sammy, so there must be an explanation scene. Additionally, we need to leave the audience feeling satisfied, so let's include another sequence for that purpose as well. The inability to conclude the film on a specific note diminishes the impact of previous attempts, resulting in a film that spirals out of control. Nevertheless, in a landscape that often restricts directors' freedom to take bold swings, especially for black filmmakers like Coogler, who have earned the right for such significant statements, making a film that feels overly ambitious is a sin worth forgiving. Sinners is a rich, multi-layered, transcendent, and genre-defying masterpiece. This is director Ryan Coogler's calling card, showcasing his mastery of storytelling, brimming with creativity and purpose. It's an instant vampire classic, and like the best entries in the horror genre, it offers so much more than just its visual appeal. Don't get me wrong, the visuals are stunning. 2 scenes in particular will leave a lasting impression on your mind. But this is a movie that demands to be heard, not just seen. Ludwig Göransson's blues-infused score captivates your soul for a few hours. Sinners is a film about music, its ability to hold you captive in a moment and then set you free for life. It explores music as a metaphor for an entire culture, a gift and a curse, a source of power, and a magnet for both good and evil. And music as a supernatural conduit is where our journey begins. An opening narration sets the stage for this extraordinary cinematic experience, plants us firmly between the realms of the living and the dead, championing musicians throughout history, from ancient Irish Fillid to Native American firekeepers, serving as the bridge between the two. From there, we're transported to a gloriously sun-drenched Mississippi in the early 1930s. Twin brothers Smoke and Stack, both portrayed by Michael B. Jordan, return home after 2 stints as soldiers. Smoke spent 1 globetrotting during World War I, while Stack worked for Al Capone in Chicago, involved in shady business that remains unexplained. Determined to make a living, they're eager to open a juke joint. Their first step is to purchase a dilapidated mill from a condescending, possibly Klan member. Subsequently, they split up to find the people they need to fill the joint with music, food, strong drink, and even stronger vibes. Before they can do so, they pick up their younger cousin Sammy, newcomer Miles Caton, a pastor's son with an astonishing gift for playing and singing the blues, despite his father's warning that it'll lead him to sinful ruin. The twins embark on a journey around town, recruiting the necessary individuals to make their joint a success. Along the way, we meet most of the other players, including Smoke's wife, Annie Wanmi, Mosaku, a cook with a secret sideline in voodoo that'll prove useful, Stack's ex-girlfriend Hailee Steinfeld, who returns to town to bury her mother and potentially attract unwanted attention and trouble for the brothers as she passes for white, fast-talking old virtuoso Delta Slim Delroy Lindo, Bo and Grace Yao, 2 Chinese-American shopkeepers who can provide food and signage, and Lai Jun Lee, another Chinese-American shopkeeper. Ultimately, everyone ends up at the same joint. The juke begins playing, and both twins and their young cousin attempt to navigate past and future relationships. Smoke and Stack are also burdened with the desire to provide their guests with an escape from the lingering shadows of slavery and poverty, while simultaneously needing the venture to generate income. It's worth noting that we've reached a good hour into the movie, and the popcorn has been nibbled. In lesser hands, this could have been a disaster. World building could drag, but with Coogler you crave more. It's where we fall in love and aligns with our protagonists, explaining why the second half's shift hits like the best genre blenders. The cast is uniformly excellent. Secondary characters who would be mere fodder in a lesser effort are given room to make a mark. Mosaku and Steinfeld are not just the arranged lovers left behind. And Lindo's Delta Slim is given a great flashback scene to Soliloquist, heard but not seen, showcasing his trademark character actor craft. Michael B. Jordan may headline, and he is reliable as ever for frequent collaborator Coogler in dual roles that look and feel different without being showy. But it's really Miles Caton's movie. A child prodigy with gospel royalty in his blood. He's the son of singer Timony Figueroa. It's hard to believe it's his first acting role. From innocent and unsure to headlining the night's festivities with swagger, both musically and dramatically, Caton calibrates it perfectly. When Jordan Stack gapes in shock and wonder as he first hears Caton's Sammy strum and sing, "We're right there with him," Caton makes it easy to believe in the opening narration's premise. As the night reaches its zenith, and Sammy takes to the stage to perform his ode to Daddy, "I Lied to You," the first of the unforgettable moments unfolds around his mastery of the blues. To spoil it in detail would be to kill something beautiful for you. It's easily one of the best depictions of the power of music put to film. If you've ever given your soul to a song, Coogler sees you with the dizzying cinematography of Autumn Durald era, surely already in contention for Oscar glory. Ganson's extraordinary score blends to bring it to life. If anyone asks me to describe music's ability to transcend time and place, I'll simply point them to this scene. I found myself leaning so far forward in my seat, I was practically levitating. It will stay with me forever. It's here that we're finally introduced to the vampires led by Jack O'Neill's Irish bloodsucker, Remick. Sammy is drawn to his ability to make magic with his music. Remick believes Sammy's gift is crucial to connecting with the spirits of his lost community, leading him straight to hell. While the story may feel somewhat formulaic in places, touching on the heroes under Siege's greatest hits, there's enough style and energy on display that you won't care. Prepare for a nightmarish bloodbath as the good guys try to make it through to sunrise while the monsters lurk in the shadows outside. Held back from mass slaughter by the tried and tested vampire trope of no invite, no entry, Remick and his company rely on temptation to lure the Juke's patrons outside to their doom. Remick's roots aren't given much room to breathe, but what's there still makes for a fascinating character. An Irish immigrant, he's a victim of colonialism and forced religion, but his hypocrisy is glaring. He comes with a tempting offer, championing vampirism as a form of true colorblind equality. However, he doesn't ask, he tells. This is a fascinating take on the vampire, best encapsulating the heart of Coogler's message in the second of Sinner's standout set pieces. As the remaining protagonists huddle and plan, Remick leads those he's turned. By this stage, there are plenty in a rocking session in a field, belting out Rocky Road to Dublin, and dancing with wild abandon. Is it a celebration of togetherness? Or is it a dark mirror to Sammy's earlier performance? The scene is there to tempt both protagonists and the audience. This is the only time in the film when all races sing from the same hymnal. In that moment, being a vampire seems like being at the best party in the world. And let's not forget the kindred ancestry on display. With both the song and dance outlawed by British penal laws during Remick's long lifetime, he's also been a victim of cultural oppression. Looking a little deeper, we can see this. This isn't a moment of joyous unity. Instead, it's Remick gleefully reclaiming his dominion and mastery over the Juke's patrons. He mocks the survivors, literally dancing a jig over their souls and using their bodies as puppets. It's a promise of utopia at the cost of your own identity, colonization disguised as freedom, imposed on a people who don't want it. He can sing every rebel song he knows, but ultimately, he'll feed off them just like every other wise savior figure they've likely encountered and labeled as salvation. Visually, Sinner's lineage is diverse. Since its release, Coogler has shared a letter of thanks with Variety, naming numerous cinematic inspirations, some more obvious than others. John Carpenter and Singleton, Stephen King, Jordan Peele, George Lucas, and Nicholas Regg are all on the list. Notably, there's a strong influence of Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass, Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn, and Bill Gunn's Ganja and Hess. It's hard to talk about a movie this good without gushing, but I could continue hyping it up here for another 1,000 words, and you'd still be blown away. There's too much going on under the hood to cover in one review. I haven't mentioned how sexy it is, nothing gratuitous, but real, complicated, grown-up sex. I haven't mentioned the Native American vampire hunters chasing Remick's spin-off now. I haven't said enough about those standout sequences. I don't think I ever could. The internet is already flooded with multiple essays on its themes, tone, and style. After watching, I recommend a deep dive. Other information about this film. Nothing in life is free, but many things cannot be paid for in money or material goods. The Faustian legend persists because of its cross-cultural appeal and understanding that to exist in this world is to be constantly bargaining with something like the devil, sacrificing time, relationships, or perhaps even freedom in exchange for whatever one desires more in that. In this moment, the existential trade-off prevalent in stories of black artistry and its nurturing and protection becomes evident. Malevolent outside forces are drawn to it like flies to molasses or perhaps vampires to blood, but maintaining their distance comes at a steep price. Ryan Coogler's bold, naughty, and engrossing supernatural thriller, Sinners, confronts the devil and its associates head-on, suggesting that the writer and director may be grappling with their own internal creative conflicts. Set in 1932 Clarksdale, Mississippi, enterprising twin brothers Smoke and Stack, both portrayed by Coogler's longtime muse Michael B. Jordan, returned to town after years away in Chicago. Clarksdale is renowned for being one of several places where early blues pioneers like Robert Johnson are said to have sold their souls to the devil. The siblings' activities during their time in Chicago were likely shady, involving robbing, stealing, and associating with Irish and Italian gangsters. However, upon their return, they are flush with cash and booze, eager to establish a new venture, a juke joint. They purchase an old sawmill from a white man who claims not to be a Klan member. Despite this, they quickly enlist everyone in their circle to help make their dream a reality in just a few hours, as opening night is tonight. This includes their young and enthusiastic cousin Sammy. Exciting newcomer Miles Caton, a preternaturally gifted guitar player with a low, buttery voice that evokes a man at least 3 times his age, joins the group. Old-timer and luscious bluesman Delta Slim, the ever-magnetic Delroy Lindo, and Smoke's longtime love, Annie, a powerful presence known as a Miyaku, also contribute to the festivities. It's worth noting that Sinners involves vampires, which serves as a straightforward metaphor for the ways black culture has been co-opted by whiteness. The raucous pleasures and experiences offered by the community are not without consequences, as everyone involved in the conjuring ritual receives more than they bargained for. Sonic beauty of the juke joint captivates the attention of a trio of demons led by Remick, Jack O'Neill. Their sinister intentions are to literally drain the talents and energy of black individuals. This is not a spoiler. Some of these black people make it relatively easy for Remick and his associates to exploit their potential. However, this is just a small glimpse into this dense and multifaceted text, which employs a lemonade-like approach to excavating and curating a bibliography of reference points, cinematic genres, musical influences, religious and spiritual lore, cross-cultural exchange, colorism, Jim Crow, and more. Production designer Hannah Beachler, who won an Oscar for Coogler's Black Panther, also contributed to Lemonade. A dazzling musical sequence seamlessly connects many of these ideas through fluid camera work and Ludwig Göransson's rich score. Jordan delivers a standout performance, further solidifying his status as the director the actors have worked with who truly understands his star power. As Smoke and Stack, Jordan must create distinct yet harmonious characters. He mostly succeeds, embodying a thick southern drawl that effortlessly sings and swings with each word and turn of phrase. Their physicality and interactions are visually seamless. While it takes a moment for their fundamental differences to become evident through the narrative, sharp details in how they are uniquely styled by the renowned Oscar winner Ruthie Carter also contribute to their visual distinction. Additionally, the visual differences between Smoke and Stack are further emphasized by their roles in Black Panther and its sequel, Wakanda Forever. Ultimately, Smoke is the more pragmatic and practical leader, but he is also more emotionally open, as evident in his tender dynamic with Annie. On the other hand, Stack, while still charming, leans slightly towards the crude and slightly rudder side of things. This is because this is Michael B. Jordan, and he embodies the character of a scoundrel who is forced to confront the aggrieved white woman, Mary, played by Hailee Steinfeld. Mary is a childhood friend and ex-paramour that Stack left behind when he and Smoke relocated to the north. This is a bold creative move for Jordan, and it's an even greater leap for Coogler, who continues to occupy a unique and rarefied space within Hollywood. His feature debut, Fruitvale Station, 2013, which gave Jordan his first lead role, was a low-budget indie about Oscar Grant, a young man killed by a police officer in 2009. The film was an acclaimed breakout at Sundance. However, the landscape for black filmmakers was much bleaker then than it is now, which is why it was such a significant and unprecedented event to see Coogler move so quickly into bigger budgets and mainstream success with his 3 follow-ups, Creed, Black Panther, and Wakanda Forever. That kind of swift career ascension tends to primarily be afforded to white male directors like Colin Trevorrow. But success is relative and comes in many forms. Seeing more black filmmakers like Coogler get the same opportunities to helm massive franchises as their white counterparts is progress, and he has more than most accomplished the difficult feat of making those intellectual property-based projects greater than they ever needed to be. In a recent interview with Deadline, he reflected, "I've engaged with audiences all over the planet, who can say at my age that they've had 4 movies released theatrically. And yet, I still haven't really opened myself up to the audience. I got scared that I would look up and be 50 and would still be in that situation. And by then, I might not have anything to say." For some of us who've been following him since Fruitvale, the question has always lingered. Even as we cheered and loved those franchise films, what fresh stories from a visionary as singular as Coogler were being lost to the corporate machine? Sinners is our answer, and it's a striking and satisfying one at that. It's a gorgeous and complex thrill ride that demands to be taken in on a giant screen with an enthusiastic crowd. Even though it hasn't taken pains to include Hollywood's favorite commodity, franchise nostalgia. Amidst all of this, Sinners stands out as a remarkable achievement. Thematic yin and yangs, secular/religious, north/south, and so on. It's not much of a stretch to see that Coogler's wrestling with what it means for him to be a black artist with a seat at the table. There's always a price to pay, and in Hollywood, the cost can be as much as your soul. But if you play it right, every so often you can negotiate for a better, more fulfilling deal. I'd like to think I'm immune to hyperbole when it comes to watching movies. I'm hardly tempted to get swept up in the hype of an intoxicating film festival atmosphere or the buzz surrounding an early premiere. Even my so-called letterboxed curve, the aggregated metric of how generously or harshly users of the popular social media site tend to rate what they've seen on a scale of 0.5 to 5 stars, bears this out. You know that famous Devil's Tower monument from Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Steep on both sides but perfectly flat in the middle. That's exactly the type of curve I have, which one only gets when most logged entries fall between 2 or 3 stars and rarely land on either extreme end of the spectrum. In other words, it takes a lot for a movie to earn either breathless praise or contemptuous hate from me. I'm as even-keeled as it gets. That navel-gazing preamble hopefully provides the necessary context for what I'm about to say next. It's only the second week of April, and against all odds, I'm already prepared to hail Sinners as the movie of the year from this point onwards. Writer-director Ryan Coogler's latest made headlines early on for its bloody subject matter, continuing a vampire trend that's seen the genre undergo a bit of a resurrection in recent years. Still, that only scratches the surface of what puts this particular entry on another level altogether. There's the brilliant dual performances by Coogler veteran Michael B. Jordan as outlaw twins Smoke and Stack, further establishing the lead as one of the greatest and most charismatic stars of our time. His generation. You can point to its purposeful setting of Jim Crow, Mississippi in the early 1930s, adding a subtextual spark to this powder keg just waiting to explode. Or take the fact that this is Coogler's most personal story yet, infusing a love of music with family history that grounds this supernatural thriller in something tangible and real. Things kick into gear when we meet the notorious gangsters known far and wide as the Smokestack Twins, returning to their childhood town in Mississippi after 7 years spent working shady jobs in Chicago and directly for Al Capone himself. Rumor has it that after an introductory scene all but flexing the seamless technology used to bring this effect to life, Jordan settles into the roles with ease and plays each brother on completely different energy levels. Smoke, whose real name is Elijah, is the voice of reason and cool-headed businessman of the two, balancing out Stack Elias and his more reckless, freewheeling attitude. The two concoct a scheme to buy a nearby sawmill from a wealthy white patron, renovating it into a juke joint for their community to drink, dance, and gamble away their hard-earned wages earned from working cotton fields. Naturally, their younger cousin and blues prodigy Sammy Moore, breakout performer Miles Cotton's first-ever acting role, surprisingly fits the bill for their headline performance on opening night. If only his otherworldly skills didn't attract some unwanted customers. Don't let this slow-burning first act fool you. After cleverly establishing a murderer's row of fascinating supporting characters, from Jamie Lawson's alluring Pearl, Sammy's obvious crush, to Stack's jilted ex-lover Mary Hailee Steinfeld, Smoke's superstitious and arranged wife Annie, and from one mimosa to the great Delroy Lindo as local music legend Delta Slim, Sinners switches gears from a tense period picture into something entirely different. A dizzying array of competing personal histories, grudges, and motivations all come together at this juke joint. Complicated by the devil that knocks at their door, the vampiric outsider Remick, played with scene-stealing relish by Jack O'Neill, plays a pivotal role in the unfolding events. Coogler's greatest trick lies in seamlessly integrating vampire lore and mythology into the narrative, constantly drawing our attention back to the underlying thematic reasons why Remick and his cabal of bloodsuckers make for the perfect antagonists. In Sinners, Ryan Coogler takes viewers on a sumptuous, if not shaggy, plunge into Southern Gothic horror. Sin seeps through the floorboards like molasses, and seduction calls through every note, subverting the traditional vampiric allegory with operatic ambition. Coogler boldly subverts the conventional vampiric narrative in a radically unexpected and political flourish that leans more towards Marxism than neo-Nazism, and about damn time. The film is rendered with exceptional filmmaking, glorious cinematography, and a sumptuous soundtrack. It's a haunting dirge dressed in church whites, baptizing its audience in blood, sweat, and black Southern transcendence. While the characters are all transcendent, Miles Caton, Jack O'Neill, and the chronically underrated Delroy Lindo stand out as particularly noteworthy. Make no mistake, the music steals both souls and the show. Coogler seems transfixed by the horror of the American experience, and thus scores his film with the music of the oppressed, both new and old American others alike. Be it slide guitar or fiddle, colonial memory is fused to the strings. While the final act may not fully rise to the promise of its earlier metaphors, it's still an exhilarating ride. Be sure to stay through the credits for an unexpected coda that proves to be the film's most brilliant stroke of genius. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. If this is indeed Coogler's most personal meditation, and the grand metaphor of his twin protagonists reflects the power struggle of his own artistic crossroads, then of the twin Cougars, I know which one I'm rooting for. Ryan Coogler first turned heads with his 2013 debut, Fruitvale Station, a haunting account of a fatal shooting that foreshadowed the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. He shattered expectations. He followed up with a triumphant reinvigoration of the struggling Rocky franchise with Creed, and went on to create arguably the best film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe canon, Black Panther, along with an emotionally resonant sequel that paid a heartfelt tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Sinners, the gifted writer-director's first entirely original feature, is not based on real-life events or existing intellectual property. It is packed with enough thematic layers and genre fluidity to fuel at least 3 movies. There's a lot going on here. It's an evocative portrayal of life in the Jim Crow South, a pulpy explosion of vampire horror, a dynamic reflection on the spiritual and supernatural power of the blues, and an allegory for the struggle for freedom, both earthly and otherworldly. It's as much artful as Grindhouse. It's a blood-drenched mixtape that shouldn't work, but it does thanks to Ryan Coogler's muscular direction, a terrific cast, enveloping IMAX visuals, body-quaking sound, and music that stirs the soul while setting the pulse racing. Coogler teams with his regular leading man, Michael B. Jordan, who delivers a double dose of cool but steely charisma as identical twin entrepreneurs known as Smoke and Stack. Having survived the trenches of World War I and the gangland of Chicago, the brothers return after 7 years to their Mississippi Delta hometown, Clarksdale, in 1932, flush, with cash, a truckload of liquor, and a plan to open a juke joint. Natalie, dressed in fancy big city threads that stand out a mile in the dirt, poor segregated plantation town. Smoke and Stack purchase a disused mill, its equipment and the land on which it stands from the sweaty good old boy Hogwood David Maldonado, who warns them and his clan buddies to stay off their property unless they want to be shot. The clan doesn't exist anymore, smirks Hogwood. Yeah. Coogler opens with traumatized sharecropper Sammy. Impressive newcomer Miles Caton smeared, with blood and fresh claw marks gouged into the side of his face. Sammy stumbles mid-service into the church where his father preaches, clutching his guitar. A voiceover recounts legends of music so powerful it can conjure spirits from the past and future, piercing the veil between life and death, healing communities, but also attracting evil. Illustrations of this mystical force trace back to ancestral West Africa, pre-colonization Ireland, and Choctaw tribal lore, foreshadowing the presence of all 3 cultures in the story. It's a safe bet that Sammy's blues guitar and stirring vocals wield that transcendent power, something the pastor seems to intuit when he warns his son. You keep dancing with the devil. One day, he's going to follow you home. while the flashes of red-eyed demonic faces tormenting the young man's mind suggest the hell he narrowly escaped. Coogler is in no hurry to ratchet up the horror once the action jumps back to the previous day. Business-minded Smoke heads to town to enlist the help of Chinese-American grocer Bo Chow Yao and his wife Grace Lai Jun Lee. Happy-Go-Lucky Stack reconnects with their cousin Sammy, whose musical talents will help them inaugurate the juke joint that night. He also persuades legendary local harmonica and piano blues musician Delta Slim Delroy Lindo to join them, offering unlimited Irish beer as an incentive. He hires burly sharecropper cornbread Omar Miller away from the cotton field to serve as bouncer. With brisk economy, Coogler introduces love interests for the three principal male characters. Sammy is instantly beguiled at the railroad station by Pearl Jamie Lawson, a young woman stuck in a loveless marriage and yearning to sing the blues. Stack has an uncomfortable encounter with Mary Hailee Steinfeld, a well-heeled white woman with a husband in Arkansas in town for her mother's funeral. Her romantic history with Stack, who disappeared from her life, has left her with lingering rage, even if it hasn't dulled her. Desire, the most captivating of the three love stories, centers around Smoke's reunion with Annie Mosaku, a hoodoo conjurer and Oisha spiritual healer who runs a small plantation store where their infant son is buried outside under an oak tree. Despite claiming to be a skeptic, Smoke has worn the talismanic mojo bag Annie gave him on a string around his neck throughout his absence. Their differences dissolve as Annie calls him by his name, Elijah, and their bodies intertwine. For a film that promises a violent bloodbath, Sinners is unabashedly sensual. It's brimming with sensuality, which seems fitting for a title you might expect to find splashed across a Jackie Collins novel. This aspect extends into the sumptuous textures and saturated colors of Autumn Durald Arkip's magnificent big canvas cinematography. The film was shot on both 65mm IMAX and Ultra Panavision 70, and the flavorful music of Ludwig Göransson further enhances the experience, with the score and blues performances seamlessly blending into an intoxicating effect. The film's defining set piece revolves around Sammy electrifying the opening night juke crowd with the song I Lied to You, an original composition by Ganson and Raphael Suddy. As the music soars, the life-death veil is pierced, transcending both metaphysical and temporal boundaries. The crowd, initially confined to the old mill, is joined by West African ceremonial dancers and drummers, followed by popping and locking hip-hop movers from the future, a DJ working turntables, and a Rick James-style guitarist. In a single, transporting sequence that's almost too much to take in, Coogler traces the evolution of the blues from the 1930s back to its origins and forward to its influences on funk and beyond. Sammy's music even summons traditional Chinese dancers, awakening Americanized bow and grace cultural heritage. This ecstatic communal experience represents a glorious moment of freedom for oppressed people, many of whom live hand-to-mouth in an environment of hardship. In the environment of hatred and exploitation, Sammy's song unwittingly beckons sinister interlopers from North Carolina, bent on making that freedom short-lived. Coogler doesn't have the lightest of touches conveying the violation of a community by supernatural forces, echoing real-world history in the Deep South. The vampire's descent on the juke joint intensifies the suspense, becoming genuinely scary at first with the unsettling charm of their ancient leader, Remick Jack Unal. His chilling presence and eventually brutal carnage create a haunting atmosphere. An earlier scene reveals the reason singers are cast in those roles. Remick, exposed to daylight, bloodied, and sweating, knocks on a farmhouse door, seeking shelter from Bert, Peter Draymond, and Joan Lola Kirk. The reason for their casting becomes clear before long. A Chuck Posey appears, chasing the runaway, and their spokesman, Nathaniel Aaron, warns Joan that he's not what he seems. However, the warning comes too late. In its wildest moments, Coogler's film resembles a collision of Lovecraft Country with True Blood, with more obvious comparisons likely drawn to From Dusk Till Dawn. Unlike that 1996 Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino joint, Sinners isn't winking at the audience from behind grotesque violence and droll movie tropes. Coogler has more serious matters on his mind, resulting in truly disturbing images and ideas. It's unsettling to watch a crowd of newly undead revelers, the first to flee the juke joint when blood starts flowing, skipping in a circle around Remik as he sings Wild Mountain Time and dances a little Irish jig. Just the sight of black people mesmerized into dancing to some of the whitest music ever made sends shivers down the spine. But what's even creepier is Remik's invitation to the holdouts to join them, promising an escape from dehumanizing cruelty into a fellowship that offers an eternal life of freedom and enlightenment. Throws himself into his dual roles with authority, sly humor, and effortlessly masculine physicality, all shaded with a menace that might be expected of brothers rumored to have worked for Al Capone. Ruthie Carter, whose painstakingly detailed period costumes throughout are superb, gives the twins distinct sartorial styles. Smoke favors a dapper gray three-piece suit and flat cap, while Stack's gold tooth caps glittering in his mouth are more ostentatious in his burgundy fedora, matching tie, and pocket square. Of the small group trapped inside the juke, Lindo is in winning form as a boozy old-timer previously acquainted with the devil. Caton, a former backup singer for her, is a legitimate discovery. Vulnerable yet driven in his desire to put the preacher boy tag behind him and carve a life as a musician. He plays a mean resonator guitar. Lawson has the least satisfyingly developed character, but she makes up for it when Pearl sings, busting sultry moves and raising the temperature to a point where the whole place seems to reek of sex. Lee has strong moments as Grace, her survival instincts not quite in line with the others. The real standout, however, is Nigerian-British actress Mosaku, so memorable in another unconventional horror film, His House. Annie is soft and sweet with smoke, the evidence of a love that goes way back, written in her eyes. But she's also tough and novice at dealing with hints, the Gullah term for evil spirits. She's the first of them to recognize that the intruders are no ordinary hints, but vampires, and she's quick-thinking enough to slow one of them down by tossing a jar of pickled garlic in his face. It's hard to say whether hardcore horror lovers will be fine waiting out Coogler's patient scene-setting his detailed attention to character and milieu until the bloodletting starts. Even if it then settles into nerve-rattling terror with plenty of gruesome payoff, the movie is smart horror, even poetic at times, delves into profound themes of race and spiritual freedom. While it may not be as adept at weaving social commentary into bone-chilling fear as Jordan Peele's films, Sinners offers a unique and exceptional experience. Unlike anything the director or Jordan has done before, Sinners is meticulously crafted, demanding to be seen on the biggest screen with the loudest sound system. And don't miss the end credits for a few surprises. A pivotal moment occurs halfway through the film when Michael B. Jordan, portraying twin brothers, gazes into a cracked mirror. It's then that I realized we were witnessing something truly special. Ryan Coogler didn't merely dabble in horror. He immersed himself in it wholeheartedly. Sinners is the result of a director with nothing left to prove deciding to create something personal. Set in 1932 Mississippi, the world feels dusty, broken, and alive. Every frame is meticulously crafted, drawing the viewer in. From the battered churches to the creaking floorboards beneath the characters' feet, Michael B. Jordan's performance is nothing short of phenomenal. He effortlessly transforms into two distinct men, each carrying their own unique pain. You never doubt for a moment that these brothers have endured unimaginable hardships. While Jordan has always been exceptional, this film feels like the one that finally deserves a legitimate Oscar nomination. The slow-burning pace at the beginning works flawlessly, allowing Coogler to build tension gradually. Vampires don't burst onto the scene immediately. Instead, they lurk, allowing the fear to settle in your chest. And when the violence finally erupts, it's a chaotic symphony of blood, sweat, and incredible practical effects. Think From Dusk Till Dawn, but with a profound emotional weight behind the carnage. Later in the film, Coogler executes something truly remarkable. Without cutting away, he captures the intricate way music weaves through history, oppression, and survival. It's not just technically brilliant, it hits you right in the gut. If I'm being picky, Jack O'Neill's performance is also noteworthy. The villain could have benefited from more development. While you grasp the underlying motivations, he doesn't leave the same lasting impression as the main characters. Nevertheless, this is a minor flaw in an otherwise captivating story. Sinners transcends the horror genre to explore themes of trauma, forgiveness, and the struggle to pursue one's dreams despite societal opposition. It's a messy, brutal, and beautiful experience that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. Vampires have been used as metaphors for sin, sex, and even Mormonism. However, Ryan Coogler presents a unique twist by portraying vampires as colonialists, perpetually yearning for the divine spark in others. This results in a film that's reminiscent of a Deep South vampire musical. If that sounds unconventional, prepare to be surprised. This aspect becomes crucial in the second half, which focuses on the tension and horror-fueled arrival of Remick, Lady Chatterley's lover, actor Jack O'Neill, a music-loving vampire who sets his sights on the Juke Club. For the first hour, I immersed myself in the character's development while the supernatural elements remained subtly present. The film doesn't rush into the vampire aspect, but Sinners delves into more profound themes. It weaves a rich tapestry of mythology, music as a form of magic, and a captivating setting that engages with contemporary social commentary. The film's foreshadowing is effective, and the writing is sharp. The dialogue, costume design, and character movements are all visually appealing, infusing the film with a seductive energy that complements the music. Sinners is magnetic, drawing us into the story and leaving us spellbound with every moment. The film's diverse elements could have been problematic in the wrong hands. Some of the dialogue, delivered with a distinct and dissonant tone, might have felt jarring. However, in Sinners, each supernatural horror element is used effectively and never misused. Sinners is exceptional in its unique blend of genres, music, and time periods. It's a bold and confident masterpiece that delves into complex themes and features rich character development. While Coogler has always been a talented filmmaker, Sinners may have just elevated him to the status of an auteur. Among the many vampire films available, Sinners stands out by intertwining vampire lore with music as a supernatural barrier between planes, the past, and the present. Music plays a pivotal role in the film, with an extended scene featuring Sammy singing and playing his guitar while dancers and musicians from different eras appear around him at the Juke Club. This visually stunning and captivating musical scene is one that will linger in your mind for a long time. Directed, written, produced, and starring Michael B. Jordan, Hailee Steinfeld, Miles Caton, Jack O'Connell, Wimos, Jamie Lawson, Omar Miller, Delroy, and Lindo, Sinners boasts a talented cast. The cinematography by Autumn Durald and Archippo, the editing by Michael P. Shaver, and the music by Ludwig Göransson contribute to the film's overall visual and auditory appeal. Proximity Media produced Sinners, which was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. The film premiered in AMC Lincoln Square on April 3, 2025, and in the United States on April 18, 2025. With a runtime of 137 minutes, Sinners is a cinematic experience that will leave a lasting impression. The film's budget was estimated to be between $90 and $100 million, and it grossed a significant $364.7 million at the box office. In this detailed review, we'll delve into the film's plot, characters, cinematography, editing, music, and production details. We'll also share some interesting facts about Sinners to enhance your understanding of this captivating cinematic masterpiece. We hope you enjoy this video. Please consider liking it and subscribing to our channel to stay updated on more interesting content. Thank you for watching.